Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri
Shri
Chaitanya
Chaitanya
Manobishtam
Manobishtam
Swapitam
Apitam
Yena
Yena
Bhutale
Bhutale
Swayam
Swayam
Rupa
Rupa
Kadamayam Tadati
Tadati
Swapadantikam
Swapadantikam
Vandeham Shri
Guru
Guru Shri Yuta
Kamalam
Kamalam
Sri Gurun
Vaishnavam
Vaishnava
Shri
Shri
Rupam
Rupam
Sagrajatam
Sagrajatam Sagrada
Sahagana Raghunatam Vidam Tam
Raghunatam
Sajivam
Sajivam
Sadvaitam Savadudam Parijana
Savanujana
Sagitam Krishna Chaitanya
Chaitanya
Devam
Devam
Shri Radha Krishna Padana
Radha
Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu
Bandhu
Jagatpate
Jagatpate
Gopesha
Gopesh
Gopika Kanta
Gopika
Radha
Kanta
Kanta
Radha
Namaste
Namaste
Radhe
Radhe
Vrindavaneshwari
Vrishabhanu
Vrishabhanusude Devi
Devi
Pranamami Hari
Hari
Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyasya
Vanchakalpatarubhyasya
Kripa
Kripa
Sindhu Eva Cha
Sindhuveva
Patitanam
Patitanam
Pavanebhyo
Pavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo Namo
Namo
Namaha
Hare Krishna
Jai
Chaitanya
Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Nityananda
Prabhu
Prabhu
Nityananda
Nityananda
Shri
Shri
Advaita
Advaita
Gadadhara
Gadadhara
Shri Vasadi
Srivasadi
Gaura
Gaura
Bhakta
Krishna
Hare
Krishna Hare
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 Krishna Krishna
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna
Hare
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 Rama
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 Rama Hare Hare Hare
Hare
Krishna Hare
Hare
Krishna Krishna Krishna
Krishna
Hare
Krishna
Hare Hare
Hare
Rama
Rama
Hare
Hare
Rama Rama
Rama
Rama Hare Hare
Krishna
Hare
Krishna
Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. That's also open, I think, bro. Yeah. All together? Yeah. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Narottamam
Devim
Devim
Saraswatim
Saraswatim
Vyasam
Vyasam
Tato
Jaya
Jayamudirayet
Udrayet
Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu
Prayeshu
Yad
Nityam
Bhagavata
Bhagavati
Sevaya
Sevaya
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Uddhashte Bhakti
Bhakti
Bhavati
Nishti
Krishnaya
Krishnaya
Vasudevaya
Vasudevaya
Devaki
Devaki
Nandanaya
Nandanaya
Cha
Cha
Nanda Gopa
Naya
Kumaraya
Govindaya
Govinda
Namo
Namo
Namaha
Namaha Om
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Vasudevaya Om Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya
Vasudevaya
Om
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya
Vasudevaya Krishna.
Bhagavate
Hare
Vasudevaya.
Krishna. Hare Krishna. Prabhu, I just removed your screen sharing. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Welcome you all for the Srimad Bhagavatam online study. Hare Krishna Mataji, welcome back. Few of the devotees who couldn't join few weeks are now back. I would request those possible to put on your video so that we can have face-to-face classes. I will appreciate that. So today we'll be starting with chapter 5, but we'll do a quick revision of chapter 4 because it's a continuity. Chapter 5 is continuity to chapter 4. So let me just share my screen. So what's the title of chapter 4? Anyone remembers?
Is the appearance of Sri Narada.
Yeah, appearance of Sri Narada. You can see my screen now. Yeah. So there are 33 verses, I think, in this chapter. So it started off, in the first 3 chapters about the 6 questions of the sages and the answers by Sutta Goswami is finished. And now the first was starting with the quality of the leader of the sages. We know that at Naimisharanya around 88,000 sages were there, and the leader they elected is Saunaka Rishi. So his qualities have been described as he's the Kulapati, the leader of the assembly. In fact, actually, I said last time, like he is like the chancellor of a university. So he was running a gurukul of 10,000 sages. Not a gurukul, but he's a group of, all the sages are at the PhD level. So he was running such a big university kind of a thing. So he is a leader, learned person. He's a Kulapati, and he is a very elderly person. He comes from the Brigu line lineage. So now he stands up and praises Sutta Goswami. That's the second verse talks about. So he praises Sutta Goswami as you are the Mahabhaga. Mahabhaga means the most fortunate soul. Why is the most fortunate soul? Because he was able to listen to Srimad Bhagavatam when Sukadeva Goswami was speaking, narrating. So he says, you are the best person to narrate to us this message of Srimad Bhagavatam that you heard from Shukadeva Goswami. So the first question he is asking actually in this chapter, 3 questions to Sutta Goswami. So first question he's asking is, what is the history of Srimad Bhagavatam? So he's asking in which yuga is Srimad Bhagavatam spoken, which place it was spoken, the reason why it was spoken, and how it was inspired, who inspired whom to wrote. Because they all know that Vyasadeva compiled this, how Vyasadeva was inspired and who inspired Vyasadeva to compile the Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's the question he's asking. And then he's talking about the next verses 4 and 5 is talking about the quality of Vyasadev's son, Sukadeva Goswami. So he's a very great devotee. He highlighting his, the kind of renunciation Sukadeva Goswami has. He also, recalls a pastime, when Sukadeva Goswami and and Vyasadeva were walking along. Sukadeva Goswami goes in the front, and then there were some, ladies taking bath, naked bath. So when Sukadeva Goswami passed, they didn't they didn't bother anything to cover themselves. But when Vyasadeva was passing by, they all tried to cover their body. So Vyasadeva was very confused. He was saying, he's a 16 years old boy who's passing and no one trying to, you didn't cover it. But when I am a, elderly person who's, is the father of that man, when I am passing, you all covered your bodies. Why is that? So that ladies were telling, you know, it's not that in your respect, but you're a householder, while Sukadeva Goswami is totally renounced. He doesn't know a difference between a tree and a human. He doesn't seek a difference between a male, female. So no gender partiality he has. So such a renounced person he is. So they highlighted his qualities. Saunaka Rishi highlights his qualities, and he's telling, this person Sukadeva Goswami is goes naked everywhere, and he looks very crazy. He's like a dumb man. He's like a mad person. How was this person when he went to Hastinapur? How did people recognize there? So that was another question there. How did they recognize that he is a great sage? How did they recognize him? And then they all talk from 9 to 12th verses is talking about. Okay, I'm sharing the screen. So in the 9 to 12 verses talking about, about the Parikshit Maharaj activities. This seems to be a little incorrect slide. Anyhow, it's not showing the 9 to 12 verses. That's fine. So it talks about, qualities of Parikshit Maharaj, how Parikshit Maharaj, how he was born. It was a wonderful birth. So they all heard about Parikshit Maharaj. Like when he was born itself, Vishnu protected him. In fact, he is called Vishnu Ratha, protected by Vishnu. So, and Parikshit means one who is examining something. What is he examining? He is examining all the men, whether you are the one who saved me when I was in my mother's womb. So we all know the story that, Ashwatthama sent a Brahmastra, and that was coming to kill Parikshit, who was in the womb of Uttara. And then Uttara comes, we will be seeing in, I think in the 8th chapter or in the 8th chapter of this, when Uttara comes there crying to Krishna, save me, and Krishna protects him, and Krishna enters the womb as a thumb-shaped four-handed form, and with his club, he saves him, protects from the heat of the, the Ashwatthama's weapon. Right. So they all heard that. So they want to know why is this birth. And last time there was a question, I think by Ritu Majaji, that why he was served at the end, he is not served. In fact, it is coming in the 19th chapter. But I thought I'll briefly share some point because she asked the question. We want to share what actually we had His Grace Gauranga Darshan Prabhu doing a class on Brigat Bhagavatam. So during that time, some points he mentions there. So I just thought I will just share because it is fresh in my memory. So why the question is, if Parikshit was saved when he was in the womb, why he was not saved by the snake bird, the curse of Stringi, the son of the Brahmana Samika Rishi's son, who cursed Parikshit that in a week's time the Takshaka, the snake bird, would come and kill him. So why did Krishna or Vishnu did not protect him? That's the question. Why his body? So here we are because we are bodily concept, we are looking at the body protection of his body. So Prabhu, what he mentioned is actually he got a privilege of hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam 7 days and 7 nights. From all the sages, all the learned sages assembled there, and he heard those katha, Krishna katha, for 7 days, 7 nights without sleeping. And not only that, it was the opportunity for everyone to get the original Srimad Bhagavatam, with Parikshit Maharaj spoke to Sukadeva Goswami. So that's what he's saying. So he said that's an opportunity for all of us also to hear the Parikshit Maharaj, this Sukadeva Goswami, what he spoke to Parikshit Maharaj. Whatever Bhagavatam we are hearing is nothing but the remnants of what was spoken that time. So it is an opportunity not only for Parikshit to hear it, for it is for us also. So that's what Prabhu was mentioning there. So how did, in fact, after hearing this Bhagavatam, in fact, in the 19th chapter of this canto, Parikshit Maharaj, after putting the snake on the shoulder of Shamika Rishi, afterwards he regrets. When he went back to the palace, he regretted and he felt any bad thing, let it all come to me, let it not go to the kingdom. He accepted everything. He said, let it be, anything can come. So he was waiting something to happen to him because some bad things which he has done. So when he heard the curse given by the Brahmana's son, he immediately accepted it. Right. So in fact, there were sages or other Brahmanas there who could have done some yajna to save him from this, this bird who's going to save. But he did not want all those things. So he was there. So what we can understand is whatever good or bad, everything which is happening in our life, everything is sanctioned by the Lord. So sometimes we accept only what is good to us. We are saying, oh, thank you, God, thank you, we have done for that. But when anything which is bad is happening, it is also gone through the process of the sanction. It is Krishna has given me this trouble, this problem, because for me to test me to come out of this. So that's how we have to understand this pastime. This is the lesson we can learn that from there. Okay, going back to this chapter, then 13th verse. Okay, with up to 13, after the 13th verse, after asking these three questions is history of Srimad Bhagavatam, what is the birth and activities of Parikshit Maharaj, how did Sukadev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj meet? So now you are the best person to answer this, please tell. So the next entire canto of first canto is based on these three questions. So the first Sutta Goswami answers about the history of Srimad Bhagavatam. So he first talks about the birth of Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva is born to Parasara Muni and Satyavadi. So his birth And then next verse itself, he goes saying that Vyasadeva is sitting on the banks of Saraswati, where his ashrama is there, and he is meditating. He's sitting on meditation. So what he is meditating, he was born, actually it's mentioned that he was born in the third part of Dwapar Yuga. So last time I told you there are three parts in each Yuga. One is Sandhya Rupa, one is Yuga Rupa, and the last is Sandhya Amsa Rupa. So he was born in the last part, Sandhya Amsa Rupa, that is end of Dwapar Yuga. So at the end of Dwapar Yuga he is born, and then he is meditating that Kali Yuga is going to come up. So he is seeing the anomalies of the Kali Yuga, which is going to come. So like he is meditating on how there would be a decrease in the body strength of the people in the Kali Yuga, how people will become faithless, how people will become impatient, how the life duration are reduced, how they are very unfortunate or unlucky people who are born in Kali Yuga. So he is meditating on what is going to come in Kali Yuga. So not only that, he has to act something, he has to do something for the people of Kali Yuga. So what he has done is he has divided the Vedas into four parts. In fact, it is said all the Vedas were all one, and he is the one who divided these Vedas into four parts. So the four parts of Vedas are Rig Veda, Sama Veda, Yajur Veda, and Adharvana Veda, right? So not only did he do that, split division of this. That's why division of this Veda. That's why he's called Vyasa. Vyasa means dividing. So he divided this, and not only he did dividing, he also identified a professor or a learned person and attached each one of them to each of these Vedas, like Paliya Rishi for Rig Veda and Jaimanya for Sama Veda, and Vaishampayana for Yajur Veda, and Angira Muni for Adharva Veda. So this he identified them and asked them to take care, and they started, passing on these Vedas down their disciples, their grand disciples, and extended the Vedas together. Because the people in Kali Yuga are less intelligent, so that's the reason he divided. So not only this, Vedas are mostly read by, very high level of people like the Brahmanas and, high class societies in the Varana ashram. So there were this Sudras and even Stri and those people who are not considered to be a Brahmana. No, they may be born in a Brahmana, but they may not have a Brahminical qualities. So they are called Divijay. They're the friends of the Brahmanas. So such people, for them, he wrote the Mahabharata, which had the philosophies and the cultural things for them to follow in tradition. So he made all these things because he had a compassion for people coming up in Kali Yuga. But in spite of doing all these things, writing Puranas, Vedas, everything, there was some dissatisfaction within his heart. So that dissatisfaction was reflecting. So he was, he's felt, I have followed all rules. I followed my guru's, vows. I worshipped the Vedas. I worshipped Guru. I did all sacrifices. But in spite of all these things, my heart is not content. There is something which is missing. So why is that dissatisfaction? He was contemplating on it. Then he felt it could be due to, I have not specifically pointed out about the devotional service. So I've more probably in the Vedas, it's more of impersonalism over there. So he felt he's not specifically pointed out, a devotional service, bhakti of that. So when he was thinking like that, his guru comes over there. Who is his guru? Narada Muni. Narada Muni comes there when Vyasadeva was contemplating on his defects. So he comes there. So when his guru is coming, immediately, Vyasadeva gets up respectively. He worships him, treats him equal to Lord Brahma. Narada Muni is son of Brahma. He treats him like Lord Brahma and he's welcoming. So that is the uh, fourth chapter. Quickly, right? Any reflections before we go to the fifth chapter?
Prabhuji, this is question because you're going to mention about how Hastinapur people will recognize Sukhdev Goswami.
Yeah.
And the same question comes up, how the girls recognize him when they were not covering, I mean, how they realize he is a self-realized soul.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, so this is that is basically that pastime is told to highlight how renounced this person is.
Yeah, but
Okay,
how do we
because
know that was?
Hastinapur is a different place than where Vyasadeva is there.
But I was just
So
thinking maybe the same
yeah, it's not in the
qualities,
same. No, no, it is because he was
different
leaving his
qualities.
home and going the forest.
Okay.
Okay, they are different places and different contexts it is.
Okay.
Okay, thanks,
Okay,
Mother.
fine.
Thanks for the question.
I'm not putting my camera, probably my eyes are irritating. So
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
So probably this whole Bhagavatam was taught by Vyasadeva, or did he learn, when he was a parrot, right? He has learned all this
No,
Bhagavatam
this
from.
question we already addressed. I think probably you're not there. To
Okay.
put in summary, if you see in the 18 Purana, Srimad Bhagavatam is also there. And in fact, it is going to come in this 5th chapter also. Now, like Narada Muni is going to tell, I'm going to really reveal this. Narada Muni is going to tell you have not glorified Krishna so much. You have not glorified the Lord so much. So that's the reason is your dissatisfaction. Right. So in fact, there were in some of the acharyas have written, no, like Vyasadeva says, no, in other Padma Puran, I've written Padma Puran, I've written Vishnu Puran, there also I've glorified. But then you have glorified them not in terms of devotional service, not in terms of bhakti, but in terms of liberation. You know, generally, if you talk about purusarthas, means the dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. So, from the moksha point of view, you have highlighted. Whereas, if any bhakti people who are not interested in liberation, in fact, those people who attended the last class of His Grace Gauranga Darshan Prabhu highlights on this that liberation, any devotee is not bothered about liberation. He is more bothered about doing devotional service to the Lord.
Yeah.
Okay, Prabhu. So the point here is Srimad Bhagavatam is there. In fact, it is the pastime also when Sukadeva Goswami goes away from his house because he is actually an impersonalist. Becomes an impersonalist after hearing all this. But then the personalism he is being welcomed back by quoting 2 slokas of Bhagavatam. Right, one is about actually Dharma Teja Prabhu also mentioned that. Like one is about Putana, how Krishna, he took Putana as the mother, even though she wanted to come and kill. So that is coming in actually in the 3rd canto of Bhagavatam, it is coming. And again, one more verse in the 10th canto is talking about the glories of Krishna. So these 2 verses were recited to Sukadeva Goswami, and then he came back to hear the entire Bhagavatam from him. So Bhagavatam was there in a subtle form and a concise form earlier also. That's why it is said Bhagavatam is compiled by Vyasadeva. You see that? So he has written as a Puranas also as Bhagavatam earlier, but in a more detailed version, 18,000 verses for Kali Yuga is written. In fact, it is said Bhagavatam, there are 1 lakh verses for people in the heavenly planets. In the higher planets, Bhagavatam, the bigger Bhagavatam is a very bigger topic there also. In fact, Bhagavatam is discussed even in the higher planetary systems. Okay, in Maharloka also it is discussed. Again, recently heard from Prabhu when he was mentioning about the Brigad Bhagavatam. He was saying how when Gopakumar goes to highest planetary system, what they are discussing over there. So Bhagavatam is discussed in all planetary system. And we have 18,000 verse here, just 18,000. There are 1 lakh verses in the Bhagavatam and the heavenly planets. Okay, bro, is it okay?
Yeah.
So Bhagavatam is there. He compiled. That's why in the first canto is basically Sutta Goswami speaking, giving a total introduction to Bhagavatam. And from second canto onwards, it starts.
Thanks, bro.
Anyone else? Okay, so in the fifth chapter, so once Narada Muni is coming, so it's the fifth chapter is titled Narada's Instructions on Srimad Bhagavatam for Vyasadeva. So, okay, Narada's first 4 verses talks about, Narada is trying to glorify his disciple Vyasadeva. You have written great works. Are you not satisfied? Why are you not satisfied after event? So he's inquiring about the despondency of Vyasadeva. So Vyasadeva also admits to his guru that he is dissatisfied, and he starts glorifying Narada Muni. He says, "You travel like a air, you travel. No, sorry, you travel like the sun in all the places, and you penetrate everywhere like the air." And you are more close to the Lord. So you are like the super soul for all of us. So can you tell me what is the deficiency I am facing? Why is this dissatisfaction in me? So then Narada Muni says, there are two defects he finds out. One is insufficient glorification of the Lord. That's what I was telling. So he says, there is insufficient. You are not properly glorified the Lord. And he says, you have given more emphasis on dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. This is the four purusarthas. So you have given on those two things, on these two are the defects I find in you. And he also talks about, Narada Muni also talks about, there are two kinds of literatures. One is spiritual in nature, one is mundane in nature. So the mundane kind of things are most attracted to materialistic kind of people. So it is similar to how the crow is attracted to filthy things. So all like he considers all people who are attracted to mundane kind of things. Can you see my screen or no? On the chart?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
bro. Yes, bro.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, and he says that is all the materialistic people who are attached to mundane, documentation or literatures are all like the crows, whereas those people who are attracted to spiritual topics are like the swan. You know what the difference between a crow and a swan? Anyone?
Swan lives in a good water, where there is no dirt.
Swan or a hamsa?
Sandal choose the best.
Water.
No, I can tell it can
And
separate the
difference
milk
where
from the water.
Correct.
The swan and the
So
crow eats
swan,
only the
yes,
garbage.
crow, yes, crow is eating all the garbage, whereas a hamsa or a swan, if you give a milk, it can separate the water and drink only the milk. It leave the water. So if those who are in the transcendental, who are reading the transcendental literature, they are considered to be the swan. So and then he highlights from 12 to 16 verse that how bhakti is the most valuable asset. How bhakti is very important. What is the credit of bhakti? So there is no loss even if someone falls down in bhakti. We have already seen in the Bhagavad Gita all this. So better, we have to endeavor for bhakti, which is said to be the rarest. So the result of whatever bhakti is there, that is permanent. So he highlights on bhakti. Narada Muni glorifies bhakti, and verse number 20 to 23, he instructs to Vyasadeva the glory of the Lord. So you can glorify the Lord. So I have given some very brief synopsis I have given. Now what you can do is you can meditate on it, and then you can describe Lord's pastime. Right? So that's what Vyasadeva meditates. When he compiles also, he meditates what happened in the past. All the pastimes of Prahlad and all, which were happened in other yugas, not in Dwapar Yuga, which happened in Satya Yuga. And what is going to come? No, the Buddha was not there. He didn't appear. Even the Kalki didn't appear. So he was able to also see the future. So that's how he meditated and he started compiling. So you can meditate. So Narada Muni says you can meditate on this and describe the Lord's pastime very vividly. And not only this, this will be, very useful and for all the devotees to read, the learned devotees. The conclusion is infallible. It is very infallible. So like that. So when he gives the instruction to him, and not only that, he also gives his own example, practical. So it is not only, tell, okay, you do this. He's not saying, he's instructing, okay, now I am giving you, you write it. He's saying his own pastimes, how bhakti, how because of bhakti, he got this position. So Narada Muni narrates his previous lifetime, how he was born as the son of a maid servant, how he served the Vedantas, Bhakti Vedantas, and how his devotion started and what the Bhakti Vedanta, the sages, how they initiated him, how they gave him a mantra, how he was able to confidential knowledge about the Lord he got, and how he got attracted to the Supreme Lord. And he also mentions how the process of karma yoga, how from karma yoga engaging to becoming bhakti yoga, and how sound vibration is also important. All right, so this is about the fifth chapter, and even sixth chapter also continues with related to Narada and Vyasadeva, further conversation. All right, so let's go to today's class. Sorry, it took 45 minutes for this, but if it is, because this gives an overview of this chapter. Looks like. There are so many things here. Okay. Can you see my screen now? Can you see my screen?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, okay. Anyone wants to read the first text?
Read, Prabhu.
Yeah, yes, bro.
Suta uvacha atha tam sukham asina upasnyam braha shrava devarshi praha viprarsim vina panihas smayan iva. Suta Goswami said, thus the sage amongst the god, Narada, comfortably seated and apparently smiling, addressed the rishis among the Brahmanas, Vyasa. Narada was smiling because he well knew the great sage Vyasa and the cause of his disappointment, as he will explain gradually. Vyasadeva's disappointment was due to insufficiency in presenting the signs of devotional service. Narada knew their defect and it was confirmed by the position of Vyasa.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll go to the next verse. So comfortably seated. So address the rishi among. So which I already covered this, right? So Sutta is trying to highlight. So Narada Muni comes to the ashram of Vyasadeva and is smiling and addressing all the rishis among the brahmanas. So he is addressing Vyasadeva. All right, who wants to read the next verse? So if no one there, I will read it. Narada Uvacha. Yes, Prabhu?
I can read, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Narada Uvacha Parasharaya Mahabhaga Bhagavata Kachid Atmana Paritushyati Sharira Atma Manasa Evava. Addressing Vyasadeva, the son of Parashara, Narada inquired, "Are you satisfied by identifying with the body or the mind as objects of self-realization?" This was a hint by Narada to Vyasadeva regarding the cause of his despondency. Vyasadeva, as descendant of Parashara, a greatly powerful sage, had the privilege of having a great parentage which should not have given Vyasadeva cause for despondency. Being a great son of a great father, he should not have identified the self with the body or the mind. Ordinary man with a poor fund of knowledge can identify the body as self or the mind as self. But Vyasadeva should not have done so. One cannot be cheerful by nature unless one is factually seated in self-realization, which is transcendental to the material body and mind. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Yeah. So one of the important lesson we can also learn here. So whenever we feel, there is something within our heart, we are feeling, not satisfied. Something is there. We can put ourselves this question, why are we not having, why are we feeling so sad or troublesome? Is it related anything to our body or mind, or, so that we can think of practical application, we can see. All right. Anyone else want to read this verse? Rushan Prabhu?
I can read Prabhuji if you want.
Yes, Mataji, please. I would request anyone wants to read, put your hands up so that, instead of me asking, or else I will ask or I will say someone to read. Yes, Mataji, please.
Jnanashtam susparpanmampi te
Jignyashitam.
jignakshitam susapanam apite mahad adbhutam kritavan bharatam yastvam sarvatha paribrahmhitam. Translation. Your inquiries were full and your studies were also well fulfilled, and there is no doubt that you have prepared a great and wonderful work, the Mahabharata, which is full of all kinds of Vedic sequences elaborately explained. Purport. The despondency of Vyasadeva was certainly not due to his lack of sufficient knowledge, because as a student he had fully inquired about the Vedic literatures, as a result of which the Mahabharata is compiled with full explanation of Vedas.
Thank you, Mataji. So here he is talking about Mahabhaga. Where is it in here or previous verse? Yeah, previous verse. Okay. So he talks about, Vyasadeva is a Mahabhaga, is a great, fortunate person, which I already mentioned. Mahabhaga means fortunate. Why is fortunate? Because he is born to Parasara Muni, who's a very elevated soul. We'll have to read the fourth verse. Yes, Neha Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Can you please show the Hindi one, Prabhuji? The Sanskrit one?
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Jigyasitam madhi dhitamam cha brahmayat sanatanam tathapi yojasya tamana mukhatri kritartha eva Prabhu. Hare Krishna. You have fully delineated the subject of impersonal Brahman as well as the knowledge derived therefrom. Why should you be despondent in spite of all this, thinking that you are undone? My dear Prabhu, the Vedanta Sutra or Brahma Sutra compiled by Sri Vyasadeva is the full deliberation of the impersonal absolute feature, and it is accepted as the most exalted philosophical exposition in the world. It covers the subject of eternity and methods are scholarly, so there cannot be any doubt about the transcendental scholarship of Vyasadeva. So why should he lament? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So this is the fourth verse. So he says that, you have delineated, you have written, separately written the subject matter on the impersonal Brahman and also about the knowledge. So why should you be, despondent? Why should be dissatisfied? Why should you be? So Prabhupada writes, the Brahma Sutras or Vedanta Sutras are completely written about the impersonal absolute truth. So it is accepted as the exalted philosophical, because everyone writes the commentary on this Vedanta Sutra. So it covers, all the eternity and all the sages, everyone discuss about this Vedanta Sutra. So such a great thing you have written. So what is the reason for you to laminate? So it's not that you don't have knowledge, you have the knowledge. Not only just the knowledge, are you thinking you are lacking the realized knowledge? So because Vedanta Sutra is actually, you cannot write it unless you have a totally realized, unless you are a realized soul. But the key point here is these are all more of deliberations about the impersonal feature. So that's the key Narada Muni is trying to highlight to Vyasadeva. So now let's see what Vyasadeva is going to speak. Yes, Rakesh Prabhu. You
Hare
also
Krishna.
want the Hindi version, Hare Krishna. You want the Hindi or English?
Don't worry, Prabhuji, I have my screen, no problem.
Oh, okay, right.
Vyas uvacha asteva me sarvamidam tvayuktam tathapi natma paritushyate me tanmulam vyaktam gadha bodham pruchamahe tvatma bhavatma bhutam. Translation: Sri Vasudeva said, all you have said about me is perfectly correct. Despite all these, I am not pacified. I therefore question you about the root cause of my dissatisfaction, for you are a man of unlimited knowledge due to your being the offspring of one Brahma who is self-born, which is without mundane father or mother. Purport: in the material world, everyone is engrossed with the idea of identifying the body or mind with the self. As such, all knowledge disseminated in the material world is related either with the body or with the mind, and that is the root cause of all despondencies. This is not always detected, even though one may be the greatest erudite scholar in materialistic knowledge. It is good, therefore, to approach a personality like Narad to solve the root cause of all despondencies. Why Narada should be approached is explained below. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. So Vyasadeva is now telling to Narada Muni, saying that yes, what you said is perfectly correct. I have written, I have knowledge, I've realized it. But despite everything, something is troubling me in my heart. That's the reason now I'm asking what is the root cause for all the dissatisfaction. So you can see here, this is a conversation between a guru and his subordinate and his disciple, and how a disciple is approaching his guru. Even though, you see this disciple who's such a great person who has written the Vedas, he has written Mahabharata, he has written Puranas. In spite of all these things, great things he has achieved, he is not at all proud of that thing. He feels something is missing which I have not done. So that's the greatness. And then what is he thinking? I have written this, I think, why should I ask someone? No, he is asking his guru please tell me what is the root cause of this. So that's what Prabhupada also highlights here. So he is asking, is it true that my mind and body is not satisfied? And why he is asking, now here also it's mentioned that, Narada Muni is son of Brahma. Brahma is, Swayambhu, so who is self-born. Right, so such a great person's son, now I am asking you, find out what is the root cause of my despondency. All right. Rushan Prabhu, we'll go for verse number 6.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
स वै भवान् वेद समस्तगुह्यम् उपासितो यत् पुरुषः पुराण पुरावरेशो मनसैव विश्वं सृजत्यवत्यतिगुणैरसङ्गः. Translation: My Lord, everything that is mysterious is known to you because you worship the creator and destroyer of the material world, and the maintainer of the spiritual world, the original personality of Godhead, who is transcendental to the three modes of material nature. Purport: A person who is 100% engaged in the service of the Lord is the emblem of all knowledge. Such a devotee of the Lord is in full perfection of devotional service, is also perfect by the qualification of the personality of Godhead. As such, the eightfold perfections of mystic yoga, Ashtasiddhi, constitute very little of his godly opulence. A devotee like Narada can act wonderfully by his spiritual perfection, which every individual is trying to attain. Srila Narada is 10% a perfect living being, although not equal to the personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So this is again, Vyasadeva glorifies his spiritual master. He says, you know everything. Whatever is mysterious also you know. Veda amasta guhyam. So since you worship the Lord, so the reason is because you worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You are more close to Him. So the verse talk about the Purana Purusha. So Purana means the oldest. Purusha, the personality of Godhead. You are worshipping the Purana Purusha, and who is the controller of all the material and spiritual world. Para Ishvara. And not only that, you are unattached to all the modes, Gunaya, Asanga. Asanga means unattached. Gunaya, the qualitative matter, the three modes. So you are not attached. So Vyasadeva is praising Narada Muni, saying that you are more close to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the oldest among the all, and who is the controller of both material and spiritual world, and he is also unattached and no qualitative matter. Let's read the next one.
I can read, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Tom Priyatanun Alka Iva Trilokam Antasyado Vayu Ivatma Sakshi Paravare Brahmani Dharmato Vratiya Snatasya Menuyanam Alam Vichakshava. Like the sun, your goodness can travel anywhere, everywhere in the three worlds, and like the air, you can penetrate the internal region of everyone. As such, you are as good as the all-pervasive super soul. Please, therefore, find out the deficiency in me, despite my being absorbed in transcendence under disciplinary regulations and vows. Transcendental realization, pious activities, worshipping the deities, charity, mercifulness, non-violence, and studying the scriptures under strict disciplinary regulations are always helpful.
Hare Krishna. So he
Hare Krishna.
is further praising his guru, saying that he is all pervasive in nature. Like he says, your goodness, you are like the sun. The sun travels everywhere in the three worlds. It's there, it can be seen everywhere. And like the air, so he compares Narada Muni to be like the sun or the air which penetrates everywhere. So you are as good as all. He is comparing Narada Muni as equivalent to the super soul, Lord himself, where it's all pervasive. So please, therefore, find out the deficiency in me. So what is my problem? So Atma Shakti talks about the all pervasive soul. Therefore, find out the deficiency in me. Yes, who else wants to read? No hands up.
Prabhu,
I
can you
can.
say it?
Yes, Bhupesh Prabhu.
Shri Narada Uvacha Bhavattanudita Prayam Yasho Bhagvato Amalam Yaneva Sautna Tushyate Manetad Darshanam Khilam. Translation. Sri Narad said, "You have not actually broadcast the sublime and spotless glories of the personality of Godhead. That philosophy which does not satisfy the transcendental senses of the Lord is considered worthless. The eternal relation of an individual soul with the supreme soul personality of the Godhead is constitutionally one of being the eternal servitor of the eternal master. The Lord has explained himself as living beings in order to accept loving service from them, and this alone can satisfy both the Lord and the living beings. Such a scholar as Vyasadeva has completed many expansions of Vedic literatures ending with the Vedant philosophy, but none of them have been written directly glorifying the personality of Godhead. Dry philosophical speculations, even on the transcendental subject of the Absolute, have very little attraction without directly dealing with the glorifications of the Lord. The personality of Godhead is the last word in the transcendental realization. The Absolute realized as impersonal Brahman or localized Supersoul Paramatma is less productive of transcendental bliss than the supreme personal realization of his glories. The compiler of Vedant Darshan is Vyasadeva himself, yet he is troubled, although he is author. So, what sort of transcendental bliss can be derived by the readers and listeners of Vedant, which is not explained directly by Vyasadeva, the author? Herein arises the necessity of explaining Vedanta Sutra in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam by the self same author. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. So here again, now after Vyasadeva, asking him to find us what is deficiency and praising Narada Muni, now Narada Muni is actually saying what is the cause for them. So the first cause is mentioned in this verse 8. He says, you have not actually broadcast the sublime and spotless glories of the personality of Godhead. Right? So he's saying Yasho Bhagavata Amalam. So Amalam. So the spotless glories of Lord is not brought out in your literature. And also you have not satisfied, philosophies, any philosophy which is not satisfying the Lord's sense, that is not considered to be anything of any worth. It's a very inferior philosophy. Darshanam, the philosophy what is there without mentioning about the lords, without satisfying the Lord, transcendental senses of the Lord is considered worthless. So this is one reason is mentioned, and verse number 9 talks about the second reason. Anyone was mentioning last time? Anyone wants to read?
Yes, Prabhu, I can read.
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah.
यथा धर्मादस्य शार्ता मुनिवर्यानुकीर्तितः न तथा वासुदेवस्य महिमा ह्यानुवर्णितः. Although the great sage, you have very broadly described the four principles beginning with religious performances. You have not described to such an extent the glories of the Supreme Personality, Vasudeva. The prompt diagnosis of Sri Narada is at once declared. The root cause of the despondency of Vyasadeva was his deliberate avoidance of glorifying the Lord in his various editions of the Puranas. He has certainly, as a matter of course, given description of the glories of Lord Sri Krishna, but not as many as given to the religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and salvation. These four items are by far inferior to engagement in the devotional service of the Lord Sri Vyasadeva of the Lord. Sri Vyasadeva, as the authorized scholar, knew very well this difference. And still, instead of giving more importance to the better type of engagement, namely devotional service to the Lord, he had more or less improperly used his valuable time. And thus he was despondent. From this, it's clearly indicated that no one can be pleased substantially without being engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, this fact is clearly mentioned. After liberation, which is the last item in the line of performing religiosity, etc., one is engaged in the pure devotional service. This is called the stage of self-realization or the Brahmabhuta stage. Srimad Bhagavatam 4.30.20. After attainment of this Brahmabhuta stage, one is satisfied. But satisfaction is the beginning of the transcendental bliss. One should progress by attaining neutrality and equality in the relative world. When passing the stage of equanimity, one is fixed in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. This is the instruction of the personality of Godhead in the Bhagavad Gita. The conclusion is that in order to maintain the status quo of the Brahmabhuta stage, as also to increase the degree of the transcendental realization, Narada recommended to Vyasadeva that he, Vyasadeva, should now eagerly and repeatedly describe the path of devotional service. This would cure him from gross dependency.
Okay,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Prabhu. Yeah. So this is the second reason Narada Muni given. Although you have mentioned, about the Lord, Prabhupada writes in the purport also that the glorifying has been even done in Puranas, like in Padma Purana, other thing. But still, they were all in the focus based on the four principles of purusarthas, like dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. So from the moksha point of view, it is there, but not from the devotional service point of view. So that's what is highlighted here by Narada Muni. And that's what Prabhupada ends here saying that, this is the instruction. Okay, the conclusion is that in order to maintain a person in the Brahma Bhuta stage and also the increase the transcendental realization, Narada recommends to Vyasadeva that he should now eagerly and repeatedly describe the path of devotional service. So once he does that, his despondency will get over. All right, let's go to verse number 10. Next section is the verse number 10. So he's talking about the two literatures. Any volunteers?
I can try.
Yes, Pramod.
No yadvachaschatrapadam hare yasho jagat pavitram praganit karhichit tadvayasam tirtham ushanti manasa nayatra hamsa niramantyo shikshaya. Translation. Those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons to be like unto a place of pilgrimage for crows. Since the all-perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode, they do not derive any pleasure there. Purport. Crows and swans are not birds of the same feather because of the different mental attitudes. The furtive workers or passionate men are compared to the crows, whereas all perfect saintly persons are compared to the swans. The crows take pleasure in a place where garbage is thrown out, just as the passionate furtive workers take place in wine and women, and places for gross sense pleasure. The swans do not take pleasure in the places where crows are assembled for conferences and meetings. They are instead seen in the atmosphere of natural ascetic beauty, where there are transparent reservoirs of water, very nicely decorated with stems of lotus flowers in the variegated colors of natural beauty. That is the difference between the two classes of birds. Nature has influenced different species of life with different mentalities, and it is not possible to bring them up into the same rank and file. Similarly, there are different kinds of literatures for different types of men of different mentality. So, mostly the market literatures which attract the men of the crow's categories are literatures containing refused remnants of sensuous topics. They are generally known as mundane talks in relation with the gross body and subtle mind. They are full of subject matter, described in decorative language full of mundane similes and metaphorical arrangements. Yet, with all that, they do not glorify the Lord. Such poetry and prose or any subject matter is considered decoration of a dead body. Spiritually advanced men who are compared to the swan do not take pleasure in such literatures which are sources of pleasure for men who are spiritually dead. These literatures in the mode of passion and ignorance are distributed under different labels, but they can hardly help the spiritual urge of the human being, and thus the swan-like spiritually advanced men have nothing to do with them. Such spiritually advanced men are called manasa because they always keep up their standard of transcendental voluntary service to the Lord on the spiritual plane. This completely forbids furtive activities for gross bodily sense satisfaction or subtle speculation of the material egoistic mind. Such literary men, scientists, mundane poets, theoretical philosophers, and politicians who are completely absorbed in the material advancement of sense pleasure are all dolls of material energy. They take pleasure in a place where rejected subject matter are thrown. According to Swami Sridhar, this is the pleasure of the prostitute hunters. But literatures which describe the glories of the Lord are enjoyed by the Paramhamsas who have grasped the sense of human activities.
Hare Krishna. Quite a big purport. In fact, the next was also a very big purport. We'll see. Okay, so here is talking about the literatures, the mundane literatures where, kind of people who don't take interest in that. Have you any experienced this, anyone? After coming into Krishna consciousness, you have set aside any previous of the mundane things? Anyone wants to share something?
Everything we talk is mundane. Most of the time we spend on unwanted stuff, unwanted talks.
Yes, bro. Specific?
Specific.
Any reading habits? I'm talking in terms of literature. You would have read some.
Yeah, mostly, finance related books or, career related books. Yeah, they are helpful in a way. Um, but more, they are all materialistic. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, bro. Verse number 11.
I will read
Anyone
from.
wants to? Yes, bro.
Yeah. Tadvad visargo janatagah viplavo yasmin prati slokam abhavati api namani anantasya yaso ankitani yat srinvanti gayanti grinanti sadhava. On the other hand, the literatures which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, form, pastime, etc. of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a different creation full of transcendental words directed towards bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world, misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest.
Yeah.
It is a
So this
quality.
is talking about the transcendental literature. The previous verse was about the mundane topics.
Yeah.
Yeah, continue. Quite a big
It is-
purport. We'll do it quickly.
Okay, it is a qualification of a great thinker to pick up the best even from the worst. It is said that intelligent men should pick up the nectar from the stalk of poison, should accept gold even from the filthy place, should accept a good and qualified wife even from an obscure family, and should accept a good lesson even from a man or from a teacher who comes from the untouchable. These are some of the ethical instructions for everyone in every place without exception. But a saint in far above the level of an ordinary man is always absorbed in glorifying the Supreme Lord because by broadcasting the holy name and fame of the Supreme Lord, the polluted atmosphere of the world will change, and as a result of propagating the transcendental literatures like Srimad Bhagavatam, people will become sane in their transactions while preparing the commentation on this particular stanza of Srimad Bhagavatam. We have a crisis before us. Our neighboring friend China has attacked the border of India with a militaristic spirit. We have practically no business in the political field, yet we see that previously they were both China and India and they both lived peacefully for centuries without ill feeling. The reason is that they lived those days in an atmosphere of God consciousness. And every country over the surface of the world was God fearing, pure hearted, and simple, and there was no question of political diplomacy. There is no cause of quarrel between the two countries, China and India, over land which is not very suitable for habitation. And certainly there is no cause of fighting on this issue. But due to the age of quarrel, Kali, which we have discussed, there is always a chance of quarrel on slight provocation. This is due not to the issue in question, but to the polluted atmosphere of this age. Systematically, there is propaganda by a section of people to stop glorification of the name and fame of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, there is a great need for disseminating the message of Srimad Bhagavatam all over the world. It is a duty of every responsible Indian to broadcast the transcendental message of Srimad Bhagavatam throughout the world to do all the supermost good as well as to bring about the desired peace in the world. Because India has failed in her duty by neglecting this responsible work, there is so much quarrel and trouble all over the world. We are confident that if the transcendental message of Srimad Bhagavatam is received only by the leading men of the world, certainly there will be change of heart and naturally the people in general will follow them. The mass of people in general are tools in the hands of the modern politicians and leaders of the people. If there is a change of heart of the leaders only, certainly there will be a radical change in the atmosphere of the world. We know that our honest attempt to present this great literature conveying transcendental messages for reviving the God consciousness of the people in general and re-spiritualizing the world atmosphere is fraught with many difficulties. Our presenting this matter in educate language, especially in foreign language, will certainly fail, and there will be so many literary discrepancies despite our honest attempt to present it in the proper way. But we are sure that with all our faults in this connection, the seriousness of the subject matter will be taken into consideration and the leaders of society will still accept this due to its being an honest attempt to glorify the Almighty God. When there is a fire in house, the inmates of the house go out to get help from the neighbors who may be foreigners, and yet without knowing the language, the victims of the fire express themselves and the neighbors understand the need, even though not expressed in the same language. The same spirit of cooperation is needed to broadcast this transcendental message of the Srimad Bhagavatam throughout the polluted atmosphere of the world. After all, it is a technical science of spiritual value, and thus we are concerned with the technique and not with the language. Of the technique of the great literature are understood by the people of the world, there will be success. When there are too many materialistic activities by the people in general all over the world, there is no wonder that a person or a nation attacks another person or nation on slight provocation. That is the rule of this age of Kali or quarrel. The atmosphere is already polluted with corruption of all description, and everyone knows it well. There are so many unwanted literatures full of materialistic ideas of sense gratification. In many countries, there are bodies appointed by the state to detect and censor obscene literatures. This means that neither the government nor the responsible leaders of the public want such literature, yet it is in the marketplace because the people want it for sense gratification. The people in general want to read, that is a natural instinct, but because their minds are polluted, they want such literature. Under the circumstances, transcendental literatures like Srimad Bhagavatam will not only diminish the activities of the corrupt mind of the people in general, but also will supply food for their hankering after reading some interesting literature. In the beginning, they might not like it because one suffering from jaundice is reluctant to take sugar candy, but we should note that sugar candy is the only remedy for jaundice. Similarly, let there be systematic propaganda for popularizing reading of the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, which will act like a sugar candy for the jaundice-like condition of sense gratification. Um, when men have a taste for this literature, the other literature which are catering poison to society will then automatically cease. We are sure, therefore, that everyone in human society will welcome Srimad Bhagavatam, even though it is now presented with so many faults, for it is recommended by Sri Narada, who was very kindly appeared in this chapter. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. With your non-stop breathing, you read it. Yeah. So Prabhupada highlights, how important it is for us to read transcendental literatures like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, even though, he compares it with jaundice-like condition we're having. So even though it's a sugar candy, for us it tastes in a bitter. And he also highlights about how without these things, how in the age of Kali, how the wars are happening. He speaks about the example of Indo-China war. So in fact, that time even the bordering states, the people always say war is happening between bordering states, countries. But today, if you see, the war is happening across the continents, right? So the unnecessary provocations for anything, the fighting between the Iran and US. So that's the kind of a situation Kali Yuga is going day by day. All right. Let's see the verse number 12. Anyone wants to read?
I can read it again, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji, please.
Neshmi karmanya wait achyuta
Yeah.
bhava varjitam na shobhate jnanam alam nirjanam kutaha punaha sashvate abhadram ishvara naha cha arpitam karma yat api akaranam. Translation: knowledge of self-realization, even though free from all material affinity, does not look well if devoid of a conception of the infallible God. What then is the use of fruitive activities, which are naturally painful from the very beginning and transient by nature, if they are not utilized for devotional service of the Lord? As referred to above, not only ordinary literatures devoid of transcendental glorification of the Lord are condemned, but also Vedic literatures and speculation on subject of impersonal Brahman when they are devoid of devotional service. When speculation on the impersonal Brahman is condemned on the above ground, then what to speak of ordinary creative work, which is not meant to fulfill the aim of devotional service? Such speculative knowledge and fruitive work cannot lead one to goal of perfection. Fruitive work, in which almost all people in general are engaged, is always painful, either in the beginning or at the end. It can be fruitful only when made subservient to the devotional service of Lord. In Bhagavad Gita also it is confirmed that the result of such fruitive work may be offered for service of Lord. Otherwise, it leads to material bondage. The bona fide enjoyer of fruitive work is the personality of Godhead, and thus, when it is engaged for sense gratification of the living being, it becomes an acute source of trouble. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So the next section, nearly in the next 8 verse, Narada Muni is trying to highlight how bhakti is very important. So bhakti is the only valuable asset one should possess, not even the jnana or karma. So this verse talks about how the jnana, the knowledge of self-realization, nor the karmic people going for the results, fruitive results. So how they are, what to say, they are less important without bhakti as part of it. If devotional service is not there mixed with these things, it has no value. It is useless. So jnana and karma without bhakti is fruitless. That's highlighted here. So even though you have full knowledge of self-realization, you may be free from all the materialistic affinity. But even if it is, even if it is without bhakti, it is of no use. Next verse.
Can I read, Prabhu?
Yes, bro. Ato
Ato Mahabhaga Bhavanamogadrak Shuchishrava Satyarato Dhrudavratah Urukramai Uruk Urukramasyakhila Bandhamuktaye Samadhinanusmara Tadvisheshitam. O Vyasadeva, your vision is completely perfect. Your good fame is spotless. You are firm in vow and situated in truthfulness. And thus you can think of the pastimes of the Lord in trance for the liberation of the people in general from all material bondage. People in general have a taste for literatures by instinct. They want to hear and read from the authorities something about the unknown, but their taste is exploited by unfortunate literatures which are full of subject matter for satisfaction of the material senses. Such literatures contain different kinds of mundane poems and philosophical speculations, more or less under the influence of Maya, ending in sense gratification. These literatures, although worthless, in true sense of the term, are variously decorated to attract the attention of less intelligent man. Thus, the attracted living entities are more or more entangled in material bondage without the hope of liberation for thousands and thousands of generations. Sri Narada Rishi, being the best amongst the Vaishnavas, is compassionate towards such unfortunate victims worthless literature. And thus he advises Srila Vyasadeva to compose transcendental literature, which is not only attractive, but also can actually bring liberation from all kinds of bondage. Srila Vyasadeva or his representatives are qualified because they are rightly trained to see the things in the true perspective. Srila Vyasadeva and his representatives are pure in thought due to their spiritual enlightenment, fixed in their vows due to their devotional service, and determined to deliver the fallen souls, rotting in the material activities. The fallen souls are very eager to receive novel informations every day, and the transcendentalists like Vyasadeva or Narada
Cancer.
can supply such eager people in general with unlimited news from the in the Bhagavad Gita. It is said that the material world is only a part of the whole creation, and thus that this earth is only fragment of the whole material world. There are thousands and thousands of literary men all over the world, and they have created many thousands of literary work for the information of the people in general for thousands and thousands of years. Unfortunately, none of them have brought peace and tranquility on the earth. This is due to spiritual vacuum in those literatures. Therefore, the Vedic literatures, especially Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, are specifically recommended to suffering humanity to bring about the desired effect of liberation from the pangs of the material civilization, which is eating the vital part of human energy. The Bhagavad Gita is the spoken message of the Lord Himself recorded by Vyasadeva, and thus Srimad Bhagavatam is the transcendental narration of the activities of the same Lord Krishna, which alone can satisfy the hankering desires of the living being for the eternal peace and liberation from the miseries. Srimad Bhagavatam, therefore, is meant for all the living beings all over the universe for total liberation from all kinds of material bondage. Such transcendental narrations of the pastimes of the Lord can be described only by the liberated souls like Vyasadeva and his bona fide representatives, who are completely merged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Only to such devotees do the pastimes of the Lord and their transcendental nature become automatically manifest by dint of devotional service. No one else can either know or describe the acts of the Lord, even if they speculate on the subject for many years. The descriptions of Bhagavatam are so precise and accurate that whatever has been predicted in this great literature about 5,000 years ago is now exactly happening. Therefore, the vision of the author comprehends past, present, and future. Such liberated persons as Vyasadeva are perfect not only by the power of vision and wisdom, but also in oral reception, in thinking, feeling, and all other sense activities. A liberated person possesses perfect senses, and with the perfect senses can only see, can one serve the sense proprietor, Rishikesha, Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam, therefore, is the perfect description of all the perfect personality of Godhead by the all perfect personality Srila Vyasadeva, the compiler of the Vedas. Thank you,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Quite an interesting purport. Yeah. So here, Narada Muni, first previous verse talking about how bhakti is better than the jnana and the karma path. And even in that, you need a bit of bhakti. Now he's saying that bhakti can be spoken by you. So you can glorify the Lord because you have that qualification. You are as a transcendental author. So you are the most fortunate. So he talks about Mahabhaga. This word comes everywhere so frequently. Mahabhaga, the most fortunate person. Amogadrit. Amogadrit means a perfect seer, right? Amoga, with perfect vision, you can see. You have a perfect vision, and you are such a fortunate person. You can have that perfect vision to write and about the you are very Shrava, spotless, Suchi Shrava, spotless and famous, Satyarava. And about the truth, the vow of truthfulness, and Drida Virta. So you are determined, you are fixed in the spiritual qualities. So these are the qualities of Vyasadeva that Narada Muni is trying to highlight here and trying to motivate him. Now you should write this. And Prabhupada in the purport highlights how this is a transcendental literature. Even the same Bhagavad Gita is again written by Vyasadeva, as part of Mahabharata it comes. So what Krishna spoke. And now he is motivating, Narada Muni is motivating Vyasadeva to write the glories of Lord Krishna himself as the Srimad Bhagavatam, as the literature of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is very important for all the liberated souls to read it. Okay, let's go to the next verse. Hey, volunteers. Bhupesh Prabhu, you want to try this?
Yes, Prabhu. Tato anyatha kinchan yad vivakshitah पृथग्दृशस् तत्कृतारूप नामभिः न कर्हिचित् कवापि च दुःस्थितामतिर्लभेत् वताहत नौर इवास्पदम्. Translation: whatever you desire to describe that is separate in vision from the Lord simply reacts with the different forms, names, and results to agitate the mind as the wind agitates the boat which has no resting place. Shri Vyasadeva is the editor of all descriptions of the Vedic literatures, and thus he has described transcendental realization in different ways, namely by fruitative activities, speculative knowledge, mystic power, and devotional service. Besides that, in his various Puranas, he has recommended the worship of so many demigods in different forms and names. The result is that people in general are puzzled how to fix their minds in the service of the Lord. They are always disturbed about finding the real path of self realization. Srila Narada Dev is stressing this particular defect in the Vedic literatures compiled by Vyasadeva, and thus he is trying to emphasize describing everything in relation with the Supreme Lord and no one else. In fact, there is nothing existent except the Lord. The Lord is manifested in different expansions. He is the root of the complete tree. He is the stomach of complete body. Pouring water on the root is the right process to water the tree, as much as feeding the stomach supplies energy to all parts of the body. Therefore, Srila Vyasadeva should not have compiled any Puranas other than Bhagavad Puran, because a slight deviation from that may create havoc for the self-realization. If a slight deviation can create such havoc, then what to speak of deliberate expansion of the idea separate from the absolute truth personality of Godhead? The most defective part of worshipping demigods is that it creates a definite conception of pantheism, ending disastrously in religious sects, detrimental to the progress of the principles of the Bhagavatam, which alone can give the accurate direction for the self-realization internal relation with the personality of Godhead by devotional service in transcendental love. The example of the boat disturbed by the whirling wind is suitable in this respect. The diverted mind in the pantheist can never reach the perfection of self-realization due to the disturbed condition of the selection of object. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. So this verse, Narada Muni is trying to tell to Vyasadeva that whatever description you have given, if anything is separate vision of the Lord, it is of no use. It is not, it is insubstantial, right? So he makes an analogy like it will actually end up in agitation of the mind, similar to how a wind, agitates the boat. So there is no resting place for either the mind or the boat. It will be agitated if it is not connected to without Krishna. If anything which is separate of Krishna is of no use. That's what is this key of this verse. So whatever described with the vision separate from the Lord, in terms of name, form, everything will just end up in the agitation of the mind. So Acharyas mentions that Vyasadeva in the various other Vedic scriptures or anything, he also talks about the different paths, approaching through the demigods worship, karma, jnana, yoga, all these things. So many paths are there. So it's more confusing for people in general. So Narada here points out the defects of Vyasadeva. So he says you have not emphasized the importance of describing everything which in relation, has to be done in relation to the Lord alone. All right. So some acharyas feel that no, Vyasadeva would counter argue saying that I have presented all these purusarthas and other thing, so that the karma kanda also, most of the Vedas is nearly part of karma kanda, which is all ritualistic in nature, from the materialistic life, and then for them to gradually come up to promoting themselves gradually up to devotion. So that's what I want, to bring all those people into the path. So he might put a counter argument, but he's trying to, here Narada Muni is trying to pinpoint the defect of Vyasadeva in highlighting all these things, giving not that very prominence to devotional service. And that's now coming up in Srimad Bhagavatam. So who has not read? I think Rakesh Prabhu, you want to give a try?
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah.
Yes.
So we are on slok number 15, yeah?
Jugashpishtishta Dharma
Yeah.
Krite. Which one is this?
Jugupitam dharma krute nushasataha svabhava raktasya mahan vyatikramaha yadvaktayo dharma ititaraha stito namanyate tasya nivaranam janaha. Translation: the people in general are naturally inclined to enjoy, and you have encouraged them in that way in the name of religion. This is verily condemned and is quite unreasonable, because they are guided under your instructions. They will accept such activities in the name of religion and will hardly care for prohibitions. Purport: Srila Vyasadeva's compilation of different Vedic literature on the basis of regulated performances of fruitive activities as depicted in the Mahabharata and other literature is condemned herewith by Srila Narada. The human beings, by long material association, life after life, have a natural inclination by practice to endeavor to lord over material energy. They have no sense of the responsibility of human life. This human form of life is a chance to get out of clutches of illusory matter. The Vedas are meant for going back to Godhead, going back home. To revolve in the cycle of transmigration in a series of lives numbering 8.4 million is an imprisoned life for the condemned conditioned souls. The human form of life is a chance to get out of this imprisoned life, and as such, the only occupation of the human being is to establish is lost relationship with God. Under the circumstances, one should never be encouraged in making a plan for sense enjoyment in the name of religious functions. Such diversion of human energy results in misguided civilization. Srila Vyasadeva is the authority in Vedic explanations in the Mahabharata, etc., and his encouragement in sense enjoyment in some form or other is a great barrier for spiritual advancement because the people in general will not agree to renounce material activities which hold them in material bondage. At a certain stage of human civilization, when such material activities in the name of religion, as sacrificing animals in the name of yajna, were too much rampant, the Lord incarnated himself as Buddha and decried the authority of the Vedas in order to stop animal sacrifice in the name of religion. This was foreseen by Narada, and therefore he condemned such literatures. The flesh eaters still continue to perform animal sacrifice before some demigod or goddess in the name of religion because in some of the Vedic literatures, such regulated sacrifices are recommended. They are so recommended to discourage flesh eating, but gradually the purpose of such religious activities is forgotten and the slaughterhouse becomes prominent. This is because foolish materialistic men do not care to listen to others who are actually in a position to explain the Vedic rites. In the Vedas, it is distinctly said that perfection of life is never to be attained either by voluminous work or by accumulation of wealth or by increasing the population, but it is so attained only by renunciation. The materialistic men do not care to listen to such injunctions. According to them, the so-called renounced order of life is meant for those who are unable to earn their livelihood because of some corporal defect or for persons who have failed to achieve prosperity in family life. In history like Mahabharata, of course, there are topics on transcendental subjects along with material topics. The Bhagavad Gita is there in the Mahabharata. The whole idea of Mahabharata culminates in the ultimate instructions of the Bhagavad Gita that one should relinquish all other engagements and should engage oneself solely and fully in surrendering unto the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna. But men with materialistic tendencies are more attracted to politics, economics, and philanthropic activities mentioned in the Mahabharata than to the principal topic, namely Bhagavad Gita. This compromising spirit of Vyasadeva is directly condemned by Narada, who advises him to directly proclaim that the prime necessity of human life is to realize one's eternal relation with the Lord and thus surrender unto him without delay. A patient suffering from a particular type of malady is almost always inclined to accept eatables which are forbidden for him. The expert physician does not make any compromise with the patient by allowing him to take partially what he should not take at all. In Bhagavad Gita, it is also said that a man attached to fruitive work should not be discouraged from his occupation, for gradually he may be elevated to the position of self-realization. This is sometimes applicable for those who are only dry, empiric philosophers without spiritual realization. But those who are in devotional line need not be always so advised. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. This is again quite a big purport Prabhupada has written on this. So if you see the previous verse, Narada Muni says, don't you try to pinpoint one of the defects of Vyasadev's writing, like saying that some things which are without connection to the Lord has been there, which will agitate the mind. So in this verse, he is trying to actually condemn what Vyasadeva has written. That's what Prabhupada writes in this purport. He condemns here with Sri Narada, by Narada. Right? Why he is condemning here? Because people will think Vyasadeva, who's a great scholar and is said to be the incarnation of Lord himself, has encouraged all this karmakandic work, all this ritualistic work. So people will try to say it is there in the Vedas and we will do it. What is wrong in that? Right? So in fact, that's what Prabhupada also highlights about how people use the Vedic thing to slaughter animals, right? Animal sacrifice in the name of Vedas, doing animal sacrifice. So people will use this. So you have encouraged people to naturally enjoying the tendencies, the way in which the Karma Kanda section is there, So by your instruction, so that people so will accept and do such activities in the name of religion, which should be actually prohibited. So that is what is Jugaspisitam. That means it's condemning the Vedas in this particular aspect of it. All right, let's go to the next verse 16. 16th verse highlights how the Lord's activity should be described. Who's there to read this verse? Prashant Prabhu. You want to give it a try?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Hari Bol. विकासनोऽस्यार्हति वेदितुं विभोर् अनन्तपार्श्यानिवृत्तः सुखम् परवर्तमानस्य गुणैरनात्मनास्ततो भवान् दर्श्याचेष्टितं विभो. Thus, the Supreme Lord is unlimited. Only a very expert personality, retired from the activities of the material happiness, deserves to understand this knowledge of spiritual values. Therefore, those who are not so well situated due to material attachment should be shown the ways of transcendental realization by your goodness through descriptions of transcendental activities of the Supreme Lord. Theological science is a difficult subject, especially when it deals with the transcendental nature of God. It is not a subject matter to be understood by persons who are too much attached to material activities. Only the very expert who have almost retired from materialistic activities by culture of spiritual knowledge can be admitted to the study of this great science. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly stated that out of many hundreds and thousands of men, only one person deserves to enter into the transcendental realization. And out of many thousands of such transcendentally realized persons, only a few can understand the theological science specifically dealing with God as a person. Sri Vyasadeva is therefore advised by Narada to describe the science of God directly by relating his transcendental activities. Vyasadeva is himself a personality expert in the science and he is unattached to the material enjoyment. Therefore, he is the right person to describe it. And Sukadeva Goswami, the son of Vyasadeva, is the right person to receive it. Srimad Bhagavatam is the topmost theological science and therefore it can react on the layman as a medicinal dose. Because it contains the transcendental activities of the Lord, there is no difference between Lord and the literature. The literature is the factual literary incarnation of the Lord. So, the layman can hear the narration of the activities of the Lord, thereby they are able to associate with the Lord and thus gradually perform purified from material diseases. The expert devotees also discovered novel ways and means to convert the non-devotees in terms of particular time and circumstances. Devotional service is a dynamic activity. And the expert devotee can find out competent means to inject it into the dull brains of materialistic population. Such transcendental activities of devotees for the service of the Lord can bring new order of life to foolish society of materialistic men. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his subsequent followers exhibited expert dexterity into this connection. By following the same method, one can bring materialistic men of this age of quarrel into order of peaceful life and transcendental realization.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. So yeah, this verse is now talking about how Lord has to be described. The Supreme Lord is unlimited. So it is not that everyone can understand about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Only a very expert personality can understand. So who is that expert personality? One who's retired from all the material, all from the sense gratifications. Retired from, not from retirement age. It's talking about retiring from the activities of material happiness. All right. So they deserve to understand the spiritual knowledge. Therefore, you should explain to such common person through proper description of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Prabhupada in the purport quotes one of the verses from Bhagavad Gita. Right? Anyone can quote this verse?
Sahasranam Manusheshu.
Exactly.
Manushyanam Sahasreshu.
Manushyanam Sahasreshu. 7.3. Yeah. So only out of hundreds and thousands of men, only one person deserves to know. Hardly knows me in truth. So Vyasadeva is therefore advised by Narada to describe this science of God directly by his transcendental activities. All right, let's go to the next verse. Roshan Prabhu, you can get back. You do good reading.
Yes. Yakva swadharmam charanambujam hare bhajanna pakvothapate tato yadi yatra pavapadramabhutamushyakim kovarthapto bhajatam swadharmata. Translation: one who has forsaken his material occupations to engage in the devotional service of the Lord may sometimes fall down while in an immature stage, yet there is no danger of this being unsuccessful. On the other hand, a non-devotee, though fully engaged in occupational duties, does not gain anything. Purport: as far as the duties of mankind are concerned, there are innumerable duties. Every man is duty-bound, not only to his parent, family members, society, country, humanity, other living beings, the demigods, etc., but also to the great philosophers, poets, scientists, etc. It is enjoined in the scriptures that one can relinquish all such duties and surrender unto the service of the Lord. So if one does so and becomes successful in discharge of his devotional service unto the Lord, it is well and good. But it so happens sometimes that one surrenders himself unto the service of the Lord by some temporary sentiment, and in the long run, due to many other reasons, he falls down from the path of service by undesirable association. There are so many instances of this in the histories. Bharat Maharaj was obliged to take his birth as a stag due to his intimate attachment to a stag. He thought of the stag when he died. As such, in the next birth, he became a stag, although he did not forget the incident of his previous birth. Similarly, Chitraketu, who also fell down due to the offenses of the feet of Shiv. But in spite of all this, the stress is given here to surrendering unto the lotus feet of the Lord, even if there is a chance of falling down, because Even though one falls down from the prescribed duties of devotional service, he will never forget the lotus feet of the Lord. Once engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, one will continue to serve. One will continue the service in all circumstances. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that even a small quantity of devotional service can save one from most dangerous position. There are many instances of such examples in history. Ajamil is one of them. Ajamil in his early life was a devotee, but with his youth he fell down. Still, he was saved by the Lord at the end. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. So this is actually the next section from 17 to 19 talks about how one can progress in bhakti, and which, once you get some credit in the bhakti, it is there for all ever. So there's no question of falling down, from some position. So you're one who is engaged in devotional service may sometimes fall down, even while in an immature stage. Yet there is no danger of being unsuccessful. So Prabhupada quotes many examples here, like Bharat Maharaj, Chitraketu, and even Ajamil in the example. And he also talks about the verse from Bhagavad Gita. So what's the verse from Bhagavad Gita? Prashant Prabhu might know. Anyone? 240, exactly 240. Na Vikrama na Sosti. Yeah. All right, I'll stop here. It's already 9.
Neha Vikrama Nashosti Pratyavayana Vidyate.
Yeah. So there's no loss or diminutions. Even a slight advancement on this path is perfect.
Kalpamapi dharmasya trayate mahto bharat.
Yeah, there is no danger or fear in this path. Okay. So we finished around 17 verses. We'll try to finish this chapter in the next week. So meanwhile, those who have not completed the previous chapters MCQ, please complete. I will be posting the 4th chapter one soon. Just waiting. We have only 10 people completed so far. I'm surprised.
Prabhu, I had one request.
Anyone? Yeah.
Can we prepone this call by 30 minutes? Like, can we start at 6:30?
Who's this? Sorry.
This is Ankit. Ankit Prabhu.
Ankit. I don't know. People are working. By the time they come from the work, already I'm seeing people are joining around 7:15, 7:30 also
Okay.
sometimes.
Okay, Prabhu.
And someone wants to take early dinner, they can have the dinner and then come, because especially in winter time, people might not like to take a late dinner. So after 8:39. So that's the reason the 7 o'clock for a very long time been running this at 7.
Yeah. No problem, Prabhu. No problem. I just
So
wanted to
what is
check.
your inconvenience so that I can understand your problem?
No. So, Prabhu, no inconvenience as such. So, because of winters, so usually I have dinner after the class.
Class.
So,
Oh,
yeah.
better I think winter you should have before
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Okay, Prabhu. No problem, Prabhu.
Light dinner, yeah.
Yeah, no problem. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you. Thanks for understanding. Thank you. Any other points? Any reflections?
Prabhu, I had a question.
Yeah.
What was the story of Chitraketu?
Okay. Anyone wants to tell? Chitraketu. Chitraketu, very briefly. He is a king. So, but unfortunately, he has no children. So he is lamenting to have a child. Because he is a king, he has to have some successor for him. No. In fact, so he marries so many wives. It is said that he had 100 wives, but he could not have any child. So finally, what he did, but he's a pious person. So he met one of the sages called Angira Muni. You heard of him, no? Angira Muni. So he will go, generally those days, if the king and all the great sages would come, the king would invite them, and the brahmanas, sages will ask, how is your kingdom? How are the people? They will inquire and they will advise them. So, but that time Angira Muni feels Chitraketu was like similar to how Vyasadeva was having, despondency. He was feeling despondency. So, yeah, he asked him, what is that you're not satisfied? He said, yes, for my kingdom, there is no successor. In my case, I have no children. What today? I have 100 wives, but still I don't have a child. What happened? So he will say, they also see the horoscope. They will see that he saw and said, no, in this, you are, as per your karma, you don't have any child for you. That's what is the faith for you. But Chitraketu will beg, he will say, I need to have a child. So finally, Angira Muni will give some, fruit or something. You go give it to your favorite wife and you will get a child. But he will say something. So you will get pleasure of this child, but you will also lament. You will also be lamenting for this child. He said, no, no, that's all right, but I need a child. So I will do whatever you say. And then he will get the fruit and he will give to his wife. One of the wife, he had 100 wives. So one of the main first wife, he gives it and she gets a child. And he will be so happy. He's the happiest person in the world. So he's a happy he will be. They will bring up the child. But there are other 99 wives who are jealous of this. So they will start poisoning this child. As the child grows, he is poisoned and he dies because of this. So that time, what happens? They were all praying, why did this happen to us? Chitraketu and his wife and everyone were crying, why this is happening? And that same time, Angira Muni and Narada Muni comes there and they find that. Then he will say, this is what I told you, that because of this child, you will lament, you will have happiness, but you will ultimately lament. But they will say, why this all happened? They will cry. So again, they will pray. And then Narada Muni and Angira Muni brings this child back to life. And the child gets up and all will be very joyful. But that child, in fact, it is said Angira Muni enters into this body and speaks or something like that. So the child gets up and start telling, uh, you know, uh, who are you? Like he will ask his father. His father will say, I am your father. In which lifetime are you your father? For my father. I had so many lifetimes. There are different fathers of you. So he will talk about his past lifetime and others. So this philosophical speech of this own son will, make him understand, what is temporary, what is permanent, what is the difference between matter and soul, basic understanding of who I am. So that will make Chitraketu more devotion. So he becomes a very great devotee of the Lord. So that's in a brief. Anyone wants to add something more?
Prabhu, is the same Chitraketu where once he was traveling and he happens to see
Yeah,
Mother Parvati
exactly.
sitting on the lap, and
Yeah,
even though he's
yeah,
a good friend of Lord Shiva, jokingly he makes a comment, but unfortunately Mother Parvati gets upset and
yeah.
she curses him and he gets born as uh, Vrutasura, and then
Vritasura, exactly the same.
same
Chitraketu, what
Chitraketu.
happens is, as you said, he becomes a very adorned devotee of Vishnu, Krishna. And once, as Prabhu was mentioning, he was traveling, flying over. So he sees below him, um, there are a lot of sages sitting and hearing to a talk given by Vishnu. I mean, sorry, Shiva, Lord Shiva is giving. At that time, Mother Parvati is sitting on the lap. So, seeing this scene that Parvati is sitting on the lap of Lord Shiva, but he is talking to who? All the sages who are renounced, right? So, seeing this scene, he started laughing. So, Lord Shiva did not take it offensively, but Mother Parvati took it very offensively. So she cursed him that you will become a demon in your next life. So that's why he becomes a demon in the next life, Vritrasura, a very powerful demon. And in fact, he fights,
Right.
when generally if it becomes a demon, you fight with the Devatas. So he fights with Indra. So great fight he will have. In fact, he is about to even defeat Indra, but Vitrasura will say, use all your weapon and try to kill me. So once you kill me, I will get liberated and go to Lord Vishnu. Because in this previous lifetime itself, he is supposed to go, but because of the curse, he became a demon. So that's the very brief story here. So that's what Prabhupada highlights on that purport about Chitraketu. Okay, Prabhu, all good?
Yes.
Thank you.
So, Prabhu, Sukadev Goswami, sorry, I had a small question actually. We say that in the previous birth he was like he was a parrot. He was listening to the whole Bhagavatam when Lord Shiva was narrating to Mother Parvati, and then he enters in the womb of Vyasadev's wife side, Prabhu.
Yeah.
So if he has already run the he has already listened to Bhagavatam, why do we say when he